Martin from the Philippines. We're here in Real Talk Lifeline. So, welcome to Podcast Meditations. And we are here with Ep.6 of Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. So, join me as I meditate. And I'm reading this book for the very first time. So, I'll be sharing the best lessons, the lines that really hit me to the core. And stay to the end because there will be the challenge. So, let's begin. People on video. I'll be sharing my screen. Boom, over there. And you can read along as I meditate. So this one is chapter 6. It's not about a trophy. So the first line. Okay, it was always a fucked up idea, but I considered it doable because 100 miles in 24 hours demands a pace of just under 15 minutes a mile. If it came to it, I figured I could walk that fast. Only I didn't walk. Exactly the right move if your race day goal is to blow the fuck up. So, context over here for this first line is um, David Goggins was going to run 100 miles in 24 hours. So, it was the San Diego one day. So, he was training for an ultra marathon. So the line ends, it was fucking funny until it wasn't. So before that, David Goggins didn't really have experience in long distance running. So the next line says, I mean, I was winging it for real. It's true that I felt okay in that moment. I knew if I were to start planning my race at that point, the bigness of it would become too much to comprehend. It would feel like I was supposed to run the length of the damn sky. It would feel impossible. Translation: when it came to ultras, I was green as fuck. So, ultras here references or means ultra marathons. So, this is anything beyond a marathon, so around 42.2K, 26 miles, so anything beyond that. So, David Goggins was talking about 100 miles. I came with a purpose bigger than David Goggins. This fight was about my once and future fallen teammates and the families they leave behind when shit goes wrong. Or at least that's what I told myself. So David Goggins shares this line because whenever we do something big, we also need a bigger purpose, something bigger than ourselves. Next line. Because you never know what might help get you through a crucial evolution that could make all the difference between graduation and failure. So, this line, because you never know what might help you get through. So, that's like a lifeline. Next line. I knew Marcus was a badass, but his humility made him real. So, this is Marcus Luttrell, also a Navy SEAL. I believe he was the guy in there's a movie that came out, The Lone Survivor. So that's who he's talking about here. When I jumped out of an airplane for the first time from high altitude, all I felt was extreme fear. I wasn't able to embrace the jump because fear had clogged my mind. But as I became conditioned to the risk, my tolerance for that same fear increased. I was used to the discomfort, and before long, I was able to appreciate the moment too. Now I was fucking flying. So I love this line because very relatable. At first, when it feels too hard, it feels like I'm too scared. I cannot appreciate the moment. But later on, as I build that conditioning, as I get better and I'm able to handle the fear, able to handle the discomfort. Same with ice baths or any type of training. I can appreciate the moment more. I can appreciate life even more. Next line. But there is no such thing as a Hell Week simulation. You have to go through it to know it. And those that survive are forever changed. I wanted to help in any way I could. Until then, I'd always considered a marathon to be the pinnacle of endurance racing. And now I was seeing there were several levels beyond it. So, as David Goggins shared or said over here, I could relate the longest distance I ever thought going from like a 50-meter dash in grade school growing up to, you know, longer distances, 1 kilometer, right? 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. We have these fun runs here in the Philippines, right? And then there's like the half marathon, 21K. So that's the farthest I've personally attempted. And then there's the full marathon, 42 kilometers. So now he's looking at ultras, which is beyond. So 50K, 100 miles even. Next line. Weekend warriors sign up for and complete marathons after a few months training all the time. But the gap between marathon running and becoming an ultra athlete is much wider, and Badwater was the absolute apex of the ultra universe. So Badwater, just for some context, is a 135-mile run or race, and it's through crazy terrain also. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So next line. He knew that if he allowed some greenhorn into the most difficult race ever conceived in the middle of summer, that motherfucker might die. I was going to have to earn it. So, and that's real. So later on, or as you read the book, when you or you can even Google Badwater 135, you run through Death Valley in the summer. So when I attempted my first half marathon, like 21 kilometers, that was April last year, April 2024. So that's summertime here in the Philippines. And it took me around 4 hours. So I made the mistake of running around 5, going on 6, 5:30 a.m. So by the time the sun rose around 9 a.m., I was getting lightheaded, right? The heat really has an impact when you're running long distance. So next line. If I had chose not to, what would that prove? That I was just another pretender. Translation. I was suffering on an unholy level reserved for dumb fucks who thought the laws of physics and physiology did not apply to them. I hadn't run 100 miles with zero training. At the 77-mile mark, I couldn't take another step forward. Kate had set up our lawn chair on the grass near the start/finish line, and when I teetered toward her, I saw her in triplicate, 6 hands groping toward me, guiding me into that folding chair. I was dizzy and dehydrated, starved of potassium and sodium. I knew my blood pressure was probably dangerously low. She removed my shoes. My foot pain was no illusion. My white tube socks were caked in blood from cracked toenails and broken blisters. My stomach rumbled, and when I looked down, I saw bloody piss leak down my leg. I shit myself too. Liquefied diarrhea rose in the space between my ass and a lawn chair that would never quite the same that would never be quite the same again. So, it's very graphic, but running 77 miles, that will happen to your body as a preview. So I have not personally experienced that yet. That was the San Diego one day where David Goggins was attempting to run 100 miles straight, like in 24 hours. Next line. This run, bad water, my entire desire to push myself to the brink of destruction was about me. It was about how much I was willing to suffer, how much more I could take, and how much I had to give. If I was gonna make it, this shit would have to get personal. Thought to myself, who in this entire fucked up world would still be in this fight? Only you. All you know is you refuse to quit. So I love this line. This one also is a very good reminder for me, or maybe for you too, wherein you feel like you're living life and you're at your edge. You know, you're running out, right? But who else would still stay in the fight, right? You did, right? Only you. So next line. He gained the kind of self-knowledge that can only come from being broken down to nothing and finding more within. Couldn't speak that language until he endured it for himself. So, this line is for everyone who goes through an experience like this. It's like you learn a new language. You can understand and even see other people who go through it as well, like what you have been through. Next line. And that's exactly where I found myself again when I was reduced to my absolute lowest on Hospitality Point. So Hospitality Point is where David Goggins ran that San Diego one day, 100 miles in one day. Next line. I realized that still being in the fight was a miracle in itself. I kept going when I should have quit 5 hours ago. So I love this line because just like doing this live right now, there are many moments that we feel like I could have quit. You know, I feel like blowing my nose, got this allergies, blowing my nose, feel like coughing. You know, sometimes whenever I upload a video, there's an automatic hater. Like, why am I doing this right? Why still do this? Why go live? But the fact that we are still in the fight, that's a miracle in itself. I love this line, right? There are so many times I could have quit, and I believe there are so many times that you could have quit too, but we're still here. Next line. The feeling of being that kid, locked in a moment of gratitude for a simple gift like a cookie, came back to me. I felt it viscerally, and I used that concept to stuff a new kind of cookie jar. Inside it were all my past victories. So, one of the key lessons in this part of the book, in chapter 6 in this episode, is the cookie jar. So, David Goggins continues. We all have a cookie jar inside us because life, being what it is, has always tested us. Even if you're feeling low and beat down by life right now, I guarantee you can think of a time or two when you overcame odds and tasted success. It doesn't have to be a big victory either. It can be something small. So that's the cookie jar. If you don't have any big accomplishments to draw on yet, so be it. Your small victories are your cookies to savor, and make sure you do savor them. Yeah, I was hard on myself, but I also praised myself whenever I could, claim a small victory, because we all need that, and very few of us take the time to celebrate our successes. Sure, in a moment, we might enjoy them, but do we ever look back on them and feel that win again and again? When shit gets real, we need to draw inspiration, to push through our own exhaustion, depression, pain, and misery. The cookie jar became my energy bank. Whenever the pain got to be too much, I dug into it and took a bite. So that's the cookie jar over there. Next line. I'd done it. I'd hit 100 miles. Or had I? Couldn't remember. So I ran one more lap just to make sure. I remember lying there, naked, with a shower pouring down upon me. I shivered, felt and looked like death. And then I started peeing again. But instead of blood or urine, what came out of me looked like thick brown bile. But I knew if we went to the hospital, they'd give me painkillers, and I didn't want to mask this pain. I just accomplished the most amazing feat in my life, in my entire life. It was harder than Hell Week, more significant to me than becoming a SEAL, and more challenging than my deployment to Iraq, because this time I had done something I'm not sure anyone had ever done before. I ran 101 miles with zero preparation. This wasn't a theory. I'd experienced it firsthand on Hospitality Point. This last part, this pain and suffering, this was my trophy ceremony. I'd earned this. So let me stop the sharing, go back to you guys over here for a moment. So we are going to end this episode with challenge number 6. So, what is this? Challenge number 6: take inventory of your cookie jar. Crack your journal open again. Write it all out. Remember, this is not some breezy stroll through your personal trophy room. Don't just write down your achievement hit list. Include life obstacles you've overcome as well, like quitting smoking or overcoming depression or a stutter. Add in those minor Add in those minor tasks you failed earlier in life, but tried again a second or third time and ultimately succeeded at. Feel what it was like to overcome those struggles, those opponents, and win. Then get to work. Set ambitious goals before each workout and let those past victories carry you to new personal bests. If it's a run or bike ride, include some time to do interval work and challenge yourself to beat your best mile split, or simply maintain a maximum heart rate for a full minute, then 2 minutes. If you're at home, focus on pull ups or push ups. Do as many as possible in 2 minutes, then try to beat your best. When the pain hits and tries to stop you short of your goal, dunk your fist in, pull out a cookie, and let it fuel you. If you're more focused on intellectual growth, train yourself to study harder and longer than ever before, or read a record number of books in a given month. Your cookie jar can help you get pardon, your cookie jar can help there too. Because if you perform this challenge correctly and truly challenge yourself, you'll come to a point in any exercise where pain, boredom, or self doubt kicks in, and you'll need to push back to get through it. The cookie jar is your shortcut to taking control of your own thought process. Use it that way. The point here isn't to make yourself feel like a hero for the fuck of it. It's not a hooray for me session. It's to remember what a badass you are so you can use that energy to succeed again in the heat of battle. Post your memories and the new successes they fueled on social media and include the hashtags hashtag can't hurt me, hashtag cookie jar. So to end this, I'd love to see your cookie jars, whether it's written, handwritten on paper, in a jar literally. So my version of this, I'll share very quickly is I started doing this some years ago, and this is my personal version of it, I would say. So I'm going to go to my profile over here, and this I use for journaling. So I started counting my blessings every day. So this is my version of a cookie jar, and you could do your own version of it. So a mix of this is I also put in things I'm grateful for, but a lot of it are little things, as little as getting up that day, doing some menial tasks like making my bed, like that, taking a cold shower. So a lot of these, right? Now, some of them might be a little bigger. You have a steps goal for that day. So 12,500, that's about 10 kilometers. So I did that. This is my day earlier today. I hit it. It also started drizzling, started raining on and off. So, hey, schedule suffering, do something that sucks that day. I count that as a cookie, as a win as well. So when I scroll lower and I go through each day and I practice this every day, sometimes, you'll see in there, aside from my walking, I did a personal record. I pushed the envelope, did my fastest 10K, a sub 1 hour 10K, my very first. Sometimes you'll see in there a workout like this one over here. So I've been hashtagging the cookie jar actually. So whenever I do a hard workout, I count that as a cookie too. So I'm going to stop my sharing over here, go back to you guys. And before we end this episode over here, let me just check the comment over here. Thank you, Nick, for your support, for watching this. I know you're all the way over there in the US. So thank you. I appreciate the support. So join us again for the next episode on podcast meditations. So I've already been pushing myself so much on this one. So for Can't Hurt Me, join us for the next episode. Thank you. I love you, and I will see you next time.